That's right. Scott uses this for his own education. All right. Hey, everyone. Today is May 27th, 2025. You are at EDU Endpoint office hours. This week, it's an open Q&A. So a few updates around builds, and Richard's going to walk through some of that. I'll add some color and commentary where necessary or appropriate, and then we'll turn it over to you guys for questions. So how about it, Richard?
All right. So, hey, no AI meetings. Garrett, did you check if we got Firefly?
I did earlier,
Oh,
but look,
it's here.
there's one right now.
Uh-oh.
Get out of here. You are
Gone.
dismissed. Gone.
Any other Fireflies in here? He's all, like, half the attendees could be AI bots, and we don't know.
We don't know.
We wouldn't know.
They would just, yeah, if it says Fireflies, I'm kicking it out. Yeah, so if you haven't heard, it's actually against Microsoft's policies to use any other AI meeting agents or bots outside of Copilot. So per our own leaders, we have to kick those attendees out. So no offense, but if you want us to continue hosting these calls, then we gotta follow the rules.
Yep, it's not my rule, someone else's rule, but
that's right.
All right, so what has happened in the last 2 weeks? Well, from the Intune side of things, not a ton. You can clearly see from this list that we don't have very many items for Intune.
Always quiet on the Western Front.
In fact, the one Intune item here for migrating your BitLocker recovery key from ConfigMgr to Intune, this guy was actually written by one of our cloud solution architects. And I will actually flip over and show you what is in that guide. Let's look at that. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's very, very long. There's a lot of screenshots, though, which makes it longer than it actually is. But if you are using ConfigMgr today and you're on your journey to migrating over to Intune, one of the challenges you may run into is, how do I handle my BitLocker recovery keys? Because they're all stored in either standalone NBAM or in ConfigMgr. And so what this blog post aims to do is help you migrate from one to the other. So like I said, it's very long. There's some PowerShell scripts in here, but a lot of screenshots to guide you on where to go. So take a look at that if that is something that is interesting to you. But like I said, tons of screenshots and some PowerShell code that we provide for you, so you can go ahead and tackle that. The next item, most of the next items are actually going to revolve around Windows, considering Build is primarily a developers conference, and so we don't necessarily see a lot of things come out of Build that we can implement today as IT admins. A lot of the stuff that you hear from Build will generally come through either a Windows build in the future, that maybe there's some component or something that we're building that's going to be a new feature that you'll be able to use or manage, or we're just waiting for app developers to build applications that tie into the stuff that we're announcing. So I didn't list everything that we announced at Build because there was a lot around AI, but a lot of it really isn't pertinent to what we as IT admins do on a day-to-day basis. However, one of the things that we did mention is how we're expanding opportunities for Windows app developers within the Microsoft Store. And in that post, we made some pretty interesting announcements. Most of this actually doesn't really matter to us because it's really how do we get developers onboarded into the store with their applications. But what does matter to us is this thing called the Microsoft Store Web Installer. Now, some of you have probably noticed that if you go to apps.microsoft.com, actually, you probably have only noticed this because students have shown you this, or teachers have shown you this. But if you go to apps.microsoft.com, you can install apps directly from that website. It doesn't tie into the store natively. So if you're blocking the store, but you're finding that students or others are installing things that they shouldn't be installing, it's most likely because they're coming through this. And what I found really interesting when in this post, it says the store web installer can be embedded directly on your website. It will work also on enterprise managed devices where the Microsoft Store app might be disabled. So we actively tell developers that, hey, if you want to have users to install your app, we've actually given you another capability to handle this. And so the question is, okay, well, how do I actually block this if this is in place? And so if you drill into this link here that talks about this Microsoft Store web installer, if you scroll down to the bottom, it talks about keynotes for enterprise admins. The first bullet point, won't read the whole thing, but basically what this is telling you here is that if you have policies set to block the store, these won't work to prevent this from happening. So then it says, if you'd like to better control the types of apps that can be installed by domain joined PCs, including apps from the store, from the Microsoft Web Store installer, visit AppLocker Windows Security. This policy can be used in combination with privacy only, with Windows Store app, or independently. So effectively what this is saying is use AppLocker in conjunction with the policies that you have set up today to block the store. Now, the problem with this is that this link takes you to the AppLocker overview page. It doesn't tell you actually how to do this in AppLocker. It doesn't tell you the exact XML that you're going to need for AppLocker to successfully do this. And then the third bullet point here just says, well, you could also just block through your content filter, firewall, what have you, get.microsoft.com. You block that, then that will prevent these applications from being installed. So what I ended up doing is I actually looked into the AppLocker piece, and I've set up the capability to actually block this through AppLocker in the configuration profile settings that we have for EDU recommended device settings for Intune. I haven't actually put it into the zip file, so some of you have already imported this into your tenants and you've installed this before. I haven't updated this in like a year. I just haven't had the time to go through and check all the policies again. But in here, there's a section that says MSFT EDU student deny admin apps. And this is so you have to create a custom OMA URI, a custom setting within Intune to pass the XML file that sets up the blocking of CMD, PowerShell, regedit, registry, and then these new store installer EXEs. And so the way that this experience works, if you've never seen this before, and if your students haven't done this yet, they might be doing it now. But if you go into, if you just go to apps.microsoft.com, you all can do this right now. You can go to apps.microsoft.com on your PC. When you do that, it's going to take you to what almost looks exactly like the Microsoft Store app. It's different, but it looks very, very similar. And if you just go click on apps, you can click on anything you want here. But if you click on something like iTunes, what this does is it takes you to the iTunes page, just looks almost exactly like the store. And there's a download button. Click on download, and it creates this exe. Well, it's just an exe file that you would download. It's basically a stub file for installing iTunes from the store. So if we were to look at this in my downloads folder, you'll notice that these files are all about 1 meg. So they're all just stubs. It's just a stub that calls out to the Microsoft Store to do the installation. But it doesn't actually use the store binary in Windows. It's just going out to the store website or the CDN and downloading the content. So when we do that, just do it again, and then click Open File, we get this block because I have the AppLocker policy set to block this from installing. But if you don't do this, then your students are probably working around any content filtering or whatever to install these applications. So if you're wondering how they're installing apps, if it just seems like, oh my God, all of a sudden kids are installing a bunch of apps and we didn't realize it, it's because of this. So how we solve for this with AppLocker is we create the custom OMA URI. And then in here, we have the XML file. And for some reason, GitHub's been kind of weird trying to open up these XML files last like week or so. So I don't know why it doesn't, why it takes so long to actually click through to the XML file itself. But the XML file will have all of the content. Let's see if I can do it from here. Yeah, okay. So that's for terminal. So it's basically just one additional line that gets added. I don't have Zoom it installed here, so I can zoom that, make it a little bit easier to read. So effectively what it is that every one of those EXEs, it's signed with a certificate, and the product name is called store installer. And the binary itself is store installer.exe, even though when you download the file, it says like iTunes or whatever I was downloading earlier. It has just iTunes in the name. It doesn't actually say store installer.exe, but the certificate itself, or the file publisher rather, has that as the binary. So this is what allows you to block that. So if you want that, I'll post a link in the chat when I'm done doing all the sharing here. But yeah, so that came out of build. This has actually been a problem for a little while. This web installer thing has been here probably 3-4 months, is my guess. But we're seeing more and more customers ask us how to solve for it. So that's the way we're doing it. Okay, what's next? Let's see, store expands opportunities. Okay, empowering developers and organizations. So Edge. So in Edge, we have we're doing a lot of work in Edge as it pertains to AI. We're including a lot of the AI APIs, and our new 5.4 mini model is being integrated into the browser. And so as we started integrating these things, more and more app developers are going to be able to take advantage of some of those AI capabilities. Not really all that useful for us today as IT admins. But what I did want to call out is we went generally available with our web content filter in Edge. So down, is it here? Yeah, blocking inappropriate sites at no cost on Edge for Business. We've talked about this in the past on an office hours, probably over a year ago. And we haven't really mentioned the content filter capabilities within Edge recently. But we are now announcing that this is, I think the announcement for general availability came, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And so they're including this in the much larger Edge announcement from Build. But if you are looking at maybe consolidating browsers, or if you need a content filtering solution and maybe you're cost consolidating or something along those lines, we have now added a content filter to Edge. And we also, in the policies for Edge, when you actually do enable this, there is an ability for you to block other browsers, because that's one of the things that most people are going to ask. Say, okay, well, for content filtering on Edge, that's cool, but what about if someone's installing Chrome, or if someone's installing Opera, Firefox, or whatever the browser might be? And so when you go and set up the content filtering, you'll pick the categories that you want to block. And then at the bottom, might be difficult to see this, but at the bottom, in this image, it says block use of third-party browsers. And so the way that this works is it actually uses an app blocker policy to block the other browsers from opening. So if someone tries to install another browser, they won't be able to, or they won't be able to run that other browser. So you can control that through that setting within the content filtering. So the idea being that you're consolidating everything so that all browsing is done through Edge, rather than a bunch of different browsers that might be out there. All right.
Hey, really quick, Richard, there's a question in the chat, and I think it's worthy of being answered on the recording as well. But going back to the store app, the way that you now block the store with the app blocker policy, does blocking that store installer exe block automatic updates?
No.
From the MS store as well?
No. So
explain why. Yeah.
So automatic updates are handled differently. So we have the store application itself, and the store application can be blocked, but still allow application updates to happen. And that's been happening for a long time now. So blocking the store does not prevent app updates from being blocked. this BitLocker policy, all that's doing is controlling the executable, that stub file that's doing the installation of the app, which basically is just a stub that points, it's a pointer that's pointing to the actual app content within the Microsoft's content delivery network. So we don't impact applications that are already on the machine because that update mechanism is different. So they're two separate things here.
Awesome, thanks.
All right. We're also open sourcing the Windows Subsystem for Linux. So this, the open sourcing of this itself, I don't think is, I mean, for some of you that might be important. I think what's more important for me to just let people know is that, especially for those of us that are maybe in the higher ed space, or maybe if we're in K-12, we've got students that are probably doing computer science. And for those of you that might run both Windows and Linux separate labs, or maybe you have a VDI environment or something that has Linux machines and you have Windows machines. If you're looking for a solution to maybe handle both of those with one solution rather than having two separate things, having two separate machines and operating systems, if you're not aware, Windows has this thing called Windows Subsystem for Linux. And so WSL has been around for a little while now. And the way that it works is that you install Windows, and then on top of that, there's another layer that we have, or I guess what we call effectively a subsystem, where Linux can actually be installed in combination with Windows. And so in that scenario, you can run different Linux distributions and have it all on one machine, instead of having to like spin up different virtual machines or different environments. And so if that's something that might be interesting to you for maybe some lab scenarios, it might be something worth looking at. But having this go open source is going to be a big deal, because now we can have the community start adding new features and functionality that make it more useful for others. So not just relying on Microsoft to bless the code changes and put them in. Now we can have the community take advantage of that too. So I think this is a good thing. And if you haven't looked at it yet, it might be something to look at for those lab kinds of scenarios that I mentioned earlier. Or maybe even those that might be doing research might be an option too. Let's see, I need to get Teams out here. Okay, and then some hot off the presses stuff that Garrett and I were talking about before the call.
Like literally
like
an hour ago.
Yeah, like 10 minutes before the call. Introducing a unified future for app updates on Windows. Sounds cool. What does it mean? Well, I get this bar out of here. Oh, wait. So what it means is we're looking into building a unified orchestration platform for both Windows updates and all of the other applications, so all the third-party applications that you have on your devices. This would be a massive thing if we could actually get this going the way that I think we foresee it. But it's going to require app developers to come in and actually play ball on this. And so the way that I understand it, based off the blog post, this literally came out, like I said, like an hour ago, and we've, I've just started reading it, then, so I don't have all the details on it just yet. But my understanding of this is that developers are going to need to register with the orchestrator. So they're going to be, so in Windows, we have this update orchestrator, and that orchestrates the installation of Windows updates. So your cumulative-updates.net, all the other Windows-related updates. And what we want to do is tie that same orchestrator in with third-party applications. And so we'll have your vendors register with the orchestrator as an update provider. And so when they do that, they'll tell us like the path of the executable that contains the logic to scan for new updates. So in Google, like if you look at Chrome has, I think it's called Google Updater or something like that. And that executable is responsible for doing the updates for Chrome. And so it runs on a scheduled task or a service or something, can't remember exactly. But that thing will run, and it will then do the update for Chrome. And all is good. And so what we want to do is basically tie into that and say, hey, if Windows Update can actually talk to that instead of your scheduled task, what we can then do is tell the orchestrator about updates that need to be scheduled for installation. And so what that means is that we can leverage something like active hours to say, hey, we want all of our updates, not just Windows updates, but other updates as well, to install during the active hours period. Whereas right now, you're basically just beholden to the app developer and their scheduled task mechanism. And could you change that? Yeah, you could go in there and change their scheduled tasks if they're registered through the task scheduler. But if they're not, then you can't modify that. You're just, it might check every few hours and then it just installs and that's it. You have no control over that. So that impacts end user productivity. And in fact, because it impacts end user productivity, it basically makes it so that a lot of people turn off updates for applications because they don't want those updates to impact the end user. And so because of that, you're now at risk of being insecure. You are vulnerable at that point, and you need to handle those updates some other way. And most people would maybe repackage applications, deploy them through ConfigMgr, deploy them through Intune, or something like that. So this whole process will allow us to tie into how Windows Update does the installation of updates and have a more cohesive experience between both your third-party apps as well as your Windows apps. And there is a private preview. What I would suggest, if you have contacts with some of your EDU app developers, these could be maybe testing providers, maybe just some of the apps that we know we have to deploy, but the updates are maybe more difficult to deploy or they're just kind of annoying. You may want to nudge them and say, hey, take a look at this. This was announced literally an hour ago. They probably have no idea that this is even a thing. But point them over to this and say, hey, this might be something to look at to make the update experience for your app better and more in line with what Microsoft does for Windows updates.
That's your call to action.
Call to action. All right, update out of band. Okay, so for some of you on Windows 10, there was an update, I don't know if it was the May update, maybe the May or April updates, I can't remember. Might have been the May update, that BitLocker recovery key prompts were coming up for Windows 10, 21H2 and 22H2. Personally, no one came to me about this. I saw some of the stuff on social media where some people were complaining about BitLocker recovery keys coming up on Windows 10 22H2. If that is you, there is now an out-of-band patch available for that. That came out on May 19th, so just shortly after our last call, this patch came out. This will be rolled up into the next cumulative update, so Patch Tuesday, you'll see this. But this came up for users that were running Intel-based devices on 10th generation or later vPro processors with trusted execution technology enabled. So might have been a niche kind of scenario. So maybe a small number of customers might have been hitting this. But if you are one of those, then you'll want to make sure that you're deploying this patch to handle that issue. And like I said, it's going to roll into the cumulative update for June here next month. What else? And then Hotpatch. So for Hotpatch, I don't have the Hotpatch link up here. There's a FAQ that an FAQ that we released for Hotpatch. Copy the link here. Go. So for Hotpatch, bunch of frequently asked questions. I think this literally came out like the day after our last call. Just goes through, explains what Hotpatch updates are. One thing I want to make sure that people are aware of with Hotpatch updates is that Hotpatch updates are not the full cumulative update that you get every month. It is a subset of the security updates for the month. So you get the security updates without requiring the reboot. But if there's new functionality or bug fixes or performance improvements or what have you, those things are not included in your Hotpatch updates. So if you're thinking, I'm going to put every single device on Hotpatch updates, and we're not going to have reboots except for once a quarter, just know if you're doing that, you're not going to get the new features for Windows until that baseline update comes every quarter. So you will be missing on functionality and maybe even performance improvements. So there's a bug or something that is causing issues, and you're like, hey, Hotpatch is here, and I'm installing, like, the Hotpatch updates are installing. Why isn't this fixed? I see the cumulative update says this is fixed, but it's not happening. It's because you're running Hotpatch updates that only include the security updates, does not include all the other stuff that you get with your cumulative updates. So this is why we require you on that quarterly basis to get that baseline update in, so you can get caught up with everything else.
Yeah, scroll down just a little bit there, and I don't know if you can zoom in at all, but I think that graphic is important to pay attention to as well, and plan how you're going to get these devices updated in your org, where those restarts are going to take place and where they aren't.
Yeah. So January, April, July, those are your baseline updates, and then you've got your Feb, March, May, June. Those are all the Hotpatch updates. So,
Richard, does Hotpatch on Windows Server require an ARC subscription, or can we still do Hotpatches through ConfigMgr? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it does require ARC.
I thought it did too, but I wasn't confident in that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
I'll verify, Jesse, and I'll if I find the resource, I'll link it in the chat.
Yeah, because you have to you have to tie back into Azure somehow, and I think ARC is the way to do it for the on-prem servers. If you're in Azure, then Hotpatches, they're fine. You don't have to worry about ARC or anything. But for the on-prem environment, you have to be on ARC in order for that to work.
It's fine. I don't have my dog.
Yeah, I got it.
I was taking care of the
Hot mic.
Got it. Yep.
All right. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all the FreeMass questions here, but we'll get you the links afterwards so you can see that. But good factlets out there for that. Let's see. We talked about this. What else is in here? Oh, the Entra stuff. So with Entra, you guys have probably heard about agents in terms of AI. Everyone is talking about agents. Everything's an agent. Even Satya went on to some podcast and was like, what if we just got rid of Excel? And you just didn't even have an app for Excel, and you just talked to your AI, and the AI just generated your spreadsheet for you, and you just told it what you want. You had an agent that just kind of handled all that. And you have different agents that go out and do all these things for you. Like you don't even have an application. Like I only have PowerPoint right now. I could just tell it to build me some slides or whatever and the presentation, and it just kind of does it. So agents are the talk of the town, right, as they say. But the problem that we're going to have with agents is that how agents are created in Microsoft 365 is that they're all like separate applications. So what we've done is we've announced this thing called Microsoft Entra Agent ID, which allows you to secure and manage your AI agents. What this effectively does is it creates an enterprise app in Entra, and then you can use that enterprise app and you can secure it via the security role-based access controls that we have today within Microsoft Entra. So that was announced at Build, and I think there's a preview for it right now, so you can take advantage of that if you want. But
I also hope they're going to increase the Entra object limit, because if everything is an agent, and agents now have identities,
and agents can spin up other agents. This is like the Matrix.
Yeah, I've already put that GIF in the chat.
Yeah, it's the Matrix now. So yeah, so we're gonna have a challenge with that. But there's also like, with Intune and like there's a lot of automation that can be done from a device management perspective, and so we're also investigating like how do we have agents that talk from Intune to Defender to Sentinel to third-party applitions to ServiceNow to all these other things. Like how can we have different AI agents like talk to each other, pass data off from one to the other, and how do you secure that and manage it and all of that stuff. I mean, the whole thing is going to completely change. And so we have to think from a security standpoint, like how do we integrate that within both Entra, both Intune, and all the various other services that we have. So, and so this is why the second link here that says the future of AI agents and why OAuth must evolve. You know, things are now going to be completely different in terms of how we manage things going forward. So if I just pull this up here real quick, because
And
Alex,
this blog,
what's that?
you were about to say it. I think that he just published this morning.
Yeah, so Alex published this morning, and so I briefly looked through it, but you know, one of the things that, so Alex is VP, CVP, I think of Entra ID, or the Entra team, and he you know, he posted this basically just saying that, you know, at Microsoft, we believe in the next 12 to 24 months will fundamentally change the AI agent space, and so as we have all these agents, like how do we handle, or how are we thinking to handle the security of all of these things? And so, you know, there's some RFCs that are out there on how we're going to handle some of the authorization requests that are being done. Why we think that, you know, this OAuth 2 needs to be updated. And you know, I'm definitely not a identity person. Like that's just not the thing that I've spent most of my career dealing with. But I can definitely see where we're going to have some challenges if we don't make changes on how all this stuff is going to work. And so if you are in the identity space, or maybe if you're just curious about how Microsoft's thinking about how the world's going to work from this agentic perspective, you know, take a look at this blog post. It's not that long, but I think it's good to just kind of have that understanding of how these systems are going to integrate in a much more automated way. And what else? Oh, and with FFU, so last week I pushed out 2505. Fixes a bug that we had with the May 2025 cumulative update. We had that fixed for a little while in the dev branch, but this has all now been pushed up to main. We also added LTSC support. So that is there now, and a lot more was added too. We've got automated computer naming via CSV now. So if you have a serial computer names.csv file, you can post, you can have that on the root of the USB drive, and then that will look at the serial number of the machine, and then based on that, it can do a mapping of what you want the computer name to be. So that was added. And Zadai, I can never say your name right, but I think it's Zadai. He was the one that added a lot of the LTSC code, so thanks for that. I've just kind of cleaned up some of the stuff there a bit, and so we kind of got that all tested out. For LTSC, we do support 2016 all the way to 2024, including IoT variants. So if that's something of interest to you, you can start playing around with that. And just a bunch of fixes and other code changes were added to that too. So that's out now. Go take a look. I recommend everyone updates because of the May 2025 cumulative update fix. So that's, if you don't update now, you're going to have to update eventually, because otherwise you won't be installing any cumulative updates. So, and with that, I think we are done with all the updates for.
So there are a couple of questions. One question: are there any plans for Company Portal to allow available apps on macOS devices without user affinity?
I have no idea.
I'm
the last person to talk about Mac.
Yeah, no, I don't have the answer either. Richard and I are not on the product group. So if there is something in the NDA roadmap, because this is being recorded, I can't even say that. I have not heard anything explicitly about it. I know it's a top ask, I think, not just for macOS, but for iPad OS as well. So I know that they've been working closely with the Apple team on that. I would definitely recommend you visit the Mac admins LinkedIn group. I'll find a link and post that in this chat and post your question there. And that is the Apple development team that's at Microsoft. That hopefully can answer that question directly for you. And then you can report back to us. And then I'm smiling right now at Laura's question because Laura has a question that says any ETA on the FFU UI. And I also have to highlight that's 3 acronyms in one sentence. And I'm always a fan of the more acronyms in a sentence that you could throw in there, the better. So, Richard, any ETA on the FFU UI?
You're making it sound like it's coming soon. Like you know something.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm asking you.
I don't know anything either. I don't know if it's coming out soon or not.
This is like my biggest ask for Richard for probably like how long? A year and a half?
Yeah, no, not a year and a half. We're getting a lot closer. The hard part is tying in having to tie in both driver and application updates and making it multi-threaded was somewhat of a challenge to get that done. All that work's done now, so it shouldn't be too much longer. I'm hoping like by the end of June, if we can get there. Last week, trying to get the code in for LTSC actually took a lot more time than I thought because and primarily because of .NET. .NET is terrible for LTSC. There are so many different .NET versions, and trying to pull all of that stuff in and test all of that, it took forever. And by the way, if you ever try to install LTSB on 2016, that is a nightmare. It's like it takes like over an hour to build the FFU and have it all completely updated. So if you're on LTSB 2016, I do not envy you. That is a terrible release for how long it takes to patch it and service it. But that took a lot of time the last couple of weeks. So that kind of delayed a lot of the work that I was doing on the UI. So that's all done now though. And we've now merged the branches between dev and the UI. So you guys don't see the new UI. I mean, there's a UI branch that's out there, but you don't have the code that I have. I haven't pushed all that stuff yet. But that's all that stuff has now been merged. And so now that's going to make it a lot easier now for me to move forward. So I'm not going to take any new pull requests or anything for new features until I get the UI stuff out. And then once that happens, then we can start adding in suggestions or requests that people might have as we move forward. So we're getting close. Hopefully end of June will be.
You're going to like it.
Yeah.
I've seen the mock-ups. You're going to like it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how close we can get to the mock-up. There's mock-ups.
No, sorry. No, not that. Just the general, like what you've shown me that's functional. It's good. It really simplifies the process as opposed to the script. Script makes it easy to automate. The UI makes it easy to execute. So
yeah,
it's good stuff.
Oh, sure. All right. What else we got?
That's it. Any other questions out there? Throw them in the chat. Raise your hand. Come on, mute, whatever you want to do.
Can it be before July 1? Maybe.
What's your favorite thing, Richard? Do you like brownies? I think Laura's going to bake you some brownies or send you some, I don't know, DoorDash gift cards.
It's just time.
How can we bribe you?
Just have to give me time. That's it. It's just time. It's
there's an agent for that.
Well, no. So like when you're developing like stuff for like OSD and all that, like you guys know when you're deploying like a task sequence and you deploy a new app or a new script or something, and you're going through it and you have to wait for Windows to install, you have to wait for your drivers to install, and then finally you get to that step and it breaks. Then you got to do it all over again. It's just like one little thing that you have to change. Well, that's the same thing here. It's like you test all these little things and then you finally get to the point of the code and it just breaks again. And so this is something that just takes so much time to test all these different scenarios. And so that's really just it. It's the testing and the time that goes into it. So yeah. All right, what do we got here?
Laura's raising your hand, so Laura, we'll go with you.
I feel like I'll just say what I need to say instead
Yeah.
of chatting. Garrett, give Richard some time, please, so he can finish that. Stop bugging him. Let him do it. Let him do his thing. No, I'm kidding. I do have a question, and maybe this not just for you all, but for the collective as a whole. We're doing some provisioning of devices, actually moving them from hybrid to cloud native. And in that process, we have about 4 apps that are installing upon provisioning. And we've had some weird experiences with failure rates on the app install. And we submitted a case with Microsoft, and essentially it came back as we have the company portal app installing in addition to Win32 apps installing, and so there's a conflict there, and which is causing that inconsistency. When I say that, I mean we could provision 100 of them, and maybe we have like 5 that fail, and it's a process of doing it over and over again until it gets moving. And so I was just curious, because that it's not really helpful, because he was like, the support personnel said, you'll have that when you have conflicting Win32 and Microsoft Store apps during that process. And I was just trying to figure out what the easiest way because we want some apps to install, that we do have some filtering app that we have installed. We have a papercut that we deploy out, things that we want, on the device immediately. And I just didn't know if there was a better way of doing that in addition to having the company portal app install. Just didn't know how many people have a mixed environment when they're doing those app installs.
I mean,
just me.
My guess is that there'd be a lot of people that would be in that boat. It wouldn't just be you, because the company portal's pretty, most people should be installing it, as well as there's got to be some other apps. So so the Win32 apps that you have, are they actually repackaged as Win32, or do you have any MSI line of business apps in there?
They're repackaged as Win32 apps. Okay,
yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Jesse's asking in the chat, why not have them installed in your FFU image? I don't know, are you FFUing everything? Or?
Yes, and that was our other. That's why I was like, can we make it July 1st? Because we're getting ready to do another big run, and I wanted to use the UI piece behind it. Yeah, we do have to. We're kind of on a pause right now until school ends in a couple weeks, and then we're going to kick back up in July. But that was our next, kind of route to take, was to get the apps installed there.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, you could just include company portal there if you want, and then the others can come from Intune. Mm-hmm. That's one option. You can put them all in there if you want as well. It just all kind of depends on how you want to do it.
We have to redo our USBs, so that's where I was anyway. So I was hoping that we didn't have to redo it twice, but that's where it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can so the UI functionality really is just kind of a user interface just to help with all the different parameters. So it's not necessarily there wouldn't be
functionality.
There isn't going to be any major functionality change. The whole process is still going to be very similar. Right. It's just now we give you this nice, pretty user interface to effectively create the parameters that you're already passing today, or if you're using the config file that we added recently, all the UI is just creating that config file. So I wouldn't say that you should wait for the UI to get this done now. I think you could use 2505, and that should handle what you're trying to do.
All right, so then that just solidifies that we were in the right track anyway. So thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
And get to Garrett, stop making Richard do
I've
other things.
His calendar for all of June. I have the power, and it's clear.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
All right. Let's see. Matt use both. Okay. Has anyone else had feature updates deployed through? Actually, Isaac asked something way above.
Yeah.
I'm trying to force an M365 logon window prompt on first sign-in for users. But if you're trying to do that, just turn on conditional access and require MFA. That'll always, you'll always get prompted.
Yeah, it's usually the opposite question that we get.
Yeah, like people
turn
don't
this
want
off.
Yeah, I want my users to be prompted with more things. Let's do that. The engine config product, but getting inconsistent issues. I don't know, Isaac. What are you trying to do here? Like, what are you?
It's the first step. The long-term goal is to have users sign in to OneDrive automatically and automatically sync their local documents up into OneDrive. And I want it all to happen automatically, but I want MFA or our MFA in front of signing into OneDrive. And I'm like, okay, maybe if I could just do that via Microsoft, the Microsoft 365 prompt first, that'll translate into everything down the line. So I only have to do it once versus once for every single app that they may choose down in the future. But I'm just trying to do a step one, have them be authorized via MFA, and I'm not getting it to work.
Got it.
If that helps.
Must you have them sign in before OneDrive? Because we can set up OneDrive's automatically configure after you've signed in without them having to sign into OneDrive at all. Like that's fairly easy to set up.
We want to have MFA for OneDrive access to ensure that people don't require the password just if they log into a device, because we don't have MFA on devices. Like to log into a workstation, we don't have that.
Do you have Hello for Business set up?
No, I do not.
Because Hello for Business will require you, even just setting up a PIN, that will require MFA. Oh. And then once you do that, then the MFA challenge has been set for them, and then they could sign in with a PIN if they want. Is this for adults or is this for kids?
Adults, faculty, staff.
Yeah, if this is for faculty and staff, I'd set up Hello for Business.
Yep, I just threw the link in the chat for you. Definitely recommend the Cloud Kerberos Trust. It's a little bit simpler, okay. But it does satisfy as MFA.
Oh, sweetness. All right, cool. That might
because if you don't do this, then you do end up with that task tray thing that says, "Hey, your account's broken. There's something wrong with your account." And what that is that's because the MFA challenge hasn't happened. And what can actually happen in that scenario is Intune policies may not come down because you haven't satisfied MFA yet. And because you haven't, you may not have excluded the Microsoft Intune application from your conditional access policies. And so if you don't do that, then now you have issues with Intune policies coming down until you sign in and complete the MFA challenge.
Right, and that's what I've been seeing. Like on my machine, I don't get the prompt. On the Windows 10 machines, I get the error, and on a classroom computer, I got the prompt. And I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, so set up Hello for Business, and that should solve that.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Plus, it's a better end user experience.
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
So then Joseph's question was, has anyone else had feature updates deployed through Intune stop showing up on devices? Our feature update deployments worked last month, but now aren't found on any devices. I opened a case today, but curious if anyone else has seen this. That's the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm assuming the policies are still targeted to those devices, and those devices are still in the group.
That's right. Yeah, we're planning to do all of our lab and classroom computers last week. So we had, as far as upgrading them from 10 to 11, the ones that were left. And so we had a 10 policy assigned. We set up an 11 policy that was scheduled for last Monday. And I saw it switch from scheduled to in progress, and 2 days went by and absolutely none of the devices had any of the updates, and we have no idea why. And I had noticed we have a group for devices that are on 23H2. We have a group, we've put some of them in that has an optional 24H2. And I went to those devices, and where I had been seeing it in the like taskbar with the little icon with the blue dot that, hey, you have an optional update, it's gone from all of those devices also that haven't upgraded. something. I'm honestly wondering if something as they rolled out like the new auto patch functionality that we didn't have before, maybe changed something, because we set up a test with the same, scheduled feature update in April, like in the middle of April, and it worked exactly like we expected it to, and then we're left with none of them finding updates. And yeah, it shows, like when you look at the auto patch reports, it shows them as offering offer ready, and like the clients just will not find them at all.
Yeah, so Laura mentions check safeguard holds. That's a good thing to look at if there are any safeguard holds that are set. I don't know, Laura, are you using Windows Hello for Business, or I'm sorry, Windows Update for Business reports?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I had some recently that I typically I haven't had any safeguard holds in the recent months, but all of a sudden they just started popping up there. So I haven't taken a deep dive into them yet, though.
Yeah, so
I didn't see anything like that, and we were doing 23H2, not 24H2. So I don't know that there's been any new safeguard holds assigned to that, but
yeah,
I mean, we're talking like 1,000 computers. I wouldn't expect all of them to be a safeguard hold.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going down the right track getting a support case opened. Hopefully they can find something, but yeah, I haven't seen anything like this.
Okay.
Strange one. All right, we got 5 minutes. Did we have all the questions, Garrett?
I think that's it. Matthew said he has issues whenever he makes the company portal app required on the ESP as well, but now still, it says I now still have it scoped as required, but not as blocked to the ESP. Even if it fails initially, it usually installs pretty quickly afterwards. So just some extra commentary there.
Yeah, what I wonder in that scenario, because I've seen this in the past with others as well. With one customer, we ended up having an issue with the COM APIs that we call for WinGet. That's all effectively handled through delivery optimization. And so with delivery optimization, if that's either misconfigured, turned off, or your firewall or network is blocking that, then you could potentially run into some issues there. That's not to say, though, that you wouldn't run into issues with Win32 apps or other types of apps as well. But what we noticed was the company portal app was failing during ESP, and it was actually killing the entire deployment, and we had to reimage and do everything all over again. So I would look at the network and see if any traffic is being blocked, especially if it looks like delivery optimization traffic or anything like that. There is a DO helper, or there's like a DO troubleshooter script that you can run to PowerShell script. I don't have it off the top of my head right now, but there's you can find that, and that script might help just to see if your network is capable of actually leveraging delivery optimization.
Okay, we only have a couple more minutes, so since it doesn't look like there's any more questions, number one, thanks, Richard, for going through all those updates today. You talked a lot, but it was all great. So definitely appreciate everything you shared today. Awesome job as always. Second of all, remember that next time, in 2 weeks from today, June 10th, is our last session before our summer hiatus. So please join us. We'll try to make it fun and lively, and give you guys some good stuff to carry you through the summer. Not an FFU UI, Laura. Don't get excited. I doubt it's going to be done by June 10th. But like I said, I cleared his calendar. We'll see what he can do. And then I just also wanted to say thank you for everyone who filled out the survey that we had asked y'all to fill out, just as feedback for us on these calls. y'all were really sweet in your comments, and it seems like y'all are really enjoying these calls, and we appreciate that. We do this for y'all. It's hopefully you're getting some benefit out of it, getting some value out of it. But we definitely appreciate the nice comments and kind words, and we'll definitely take some of the suggestions that y'all had and do our best to implement those for next session or next season, however you want to call it. Yeah. So with that, thanks, and we will see you guys on June 10th.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. Take care. Have a good rest of your week.
See ya.